This is just a fraction of the story. Capitalist housing works in tandem with the drudgery of the capitalist workplace to create an intolerable condition of living. You go to work and line the pockets of bureaucrats who watch over you, set your deadlines and order you around for hours on end, and then you retreat to an isolating environment which, despite the fact that you're the one who lives there, you don't get to make decisions about. For all you know, your landlord could be allowing the place to fall to bits, and all the while you could lose it if your pay is cut, you lose your job or your benefits, and end up being priced out. And if you can afford it, you turn on the television and have the luxury of being lectured to by advertisers who, in order to create demand for their largely useless products, will do everything they can to pummel your self-esteem into the ground. They tell you that your physical appearance is inadequate and hammer you with unattainable beauty standards of the ideal man and woman. They tell you that your peers will think less of you unless you appear successful, and they bludgeon you with the idea that the highest want in life is to make money, to acquire wealth and status, otherwise you're not good enough. To quote Karl Marx in one of his more anarchistic moments, "Within the capitalist system, all methods for raising the social productiveness of labour are brought about at the cost of the individual labourer. All means for the development of production transform themselves into means of domination over and exploitation of the producers. They mutilate the labourer into a fragment of a man, degrade him to the level of an appendage of a machine, destroy every remnant of charm in his work, and turn it into a hated toil. They estrange from him the intellectual potentialities of the labour process in the same proportion as science is incorporated in it as an independent power. They distort the conditions under which he works, subject him during the labour process to a despotism the more hateful for its meanness. They transform his lifetime into working time, and drag his wife and child beneath the wheels of the juggernaut of capital." What he's saying here is that even work which has the potential to be fun, exciting and stimulating has all of these qualities sucked out of it because our workplaces are organised in the interests of an elite minority. And as children, we go to school not to be stimulated or challenged, but simply to prepare us for our impending subordination to capital. Just think of all the fantastically talented people whose potential will remain unrealised because they have to spend their lives being mercilessly crushed in this manner. Is it any wonder that rates of depression, OCD, panic disorder, psychosis, alcohol and drug dependence have greater prevalence among more economically disenfranchised groups? Is it any wonder that, as Thatcherism plunged millions into deeper poverty in the 80s, heroin addiction spiralled in Muirhouse, resulting in a humanitarian crisis in which Edinburgh became the AIDS capital of Europe? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. All throughout the 20th century, there have been US-backed client states in which multinational corporations have bought up the country's assets and laid waste to the healthcare system. In many cases, there are simply no mental health services whatsoever. If someone has a psychotic episode, the procedure is to simply chain them to a bed. All across the world, millions of people, mainly working class people, suffer from mental illnesses and do not get the treatment they deserve. What could be more cruel, twisted and profoundly anti-human than a system which needlessly makes life miserable by condemning millions to drudgery under the whip of authority? But despite the fact that capitalist totalitarianism seems to invade and exert control over so many aspects of our lives, there are still pockets of time where we are able to direct our own activities, and in these spaces our mental health flourishes. Being able to focus our attention on fun activities where we aren't being constantly assessed by an authority figure has a positive impact on our well-being. Learning a musical instrument, drawing, painting, cycling, writing, scrapbooking. Studies have shown that these kind of self-directed activities help us to relieve stress and fight depression. Few things in life are more pleasurable than being so profoundly engrossed and fascinated by an activity that you forget about your worries. We do these things not for authority, but for ourselves, because they are enjoyable, they give us a sense of accomplishment, and they are a break from the misery and stress of capitalist domination. Expanding these spheres of autonomous, self-directed activity into the workplace, the home environment and the community as a whole, and bringing about a society which doesn't just treat people as isolated instruments of profit would clearly have enormous psychological benefits. It would help us so much just to know that we're part of a community and that no matter what happens there will be people looking out for us. Anarchists advocate workers' self-management and collective ownership not just out of political preference for the idea, but because these forms of organisation do a fundamentally better job of meeting our psychological needs. When we engage in fruitful, self-directed activity and when we forge relationships of equality and solidarity with our friends, we thrive. We thrive on freedom and mutual support. Truly, we are at our best and healthiest when we're able to act in an anarchistic manner. And so, far from being a far-fetched pipe dream that human beings could never live under, anarchy is what keeps us sane in a profoundly insane world. I'm Libertarian Socialist Rants. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Well done, Jen. You're not being fired by me at this precise moment.